All right, and we are live from Toronto. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rafel, and I'm joined by Sally, my colleague from Billdr. Hey, Sally.
Hi. Let's give everyone a few more minutes to join and then we can get started. But in the meantime, everyone, if you see on your right, there's a question section at the top right next to chat. If you guys can share where you guys are joining from and why you guys decided to join us today, that'd be great. And also throughout the talk today, you guys can ask any questions here, and during our Q&A section later on, we'll go through them and answer them as well.
All right, seeing we've got a couple people joining. So everyone, you can actually chat with us now just for a few minutes before we get started. Why don't you let us know where you are joining from? You can just type in the right panel. There we go. I just typed in that I am joining from Toronto. All right, just a few more minutes while we wait to get started here. I see a few more people typing. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're joining from in the chat panel on the right. All right, we've got Joelle from Toronto, and we've got Sylvain from Toronto. Hello.
Any others from Toronto?
Don't be shy. All right. Well, Sally, we can let others join. Oh, we've got someone from NYC. Hello. Awesome.
Okay. So should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Perfect. Okay. Can I move to the second slide? So for the first part of our today's talk, it will be around 30 minutes, and we'll introduce you to our special guests. And we'll also discuss if it's time to add an extension or move out and move on. The second part of our talk will be, again, a 30-minute Q&A session. So please remember to submit your questions in the questions on your right side. You can also upvote any questions that come up so that we know which ones people are asking a little bit more. And we'll also be sharing an exciting promotion at the end, so please stay tuned. Now, introducing our host for today's talk is Rafel Samut, who is our Toronto General Manager and Project Manager at Billdr. He was formerly an associate at McKinsey and Morrison Construction and has a wealth of knowledge in construction industry. Rafel, and to you.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks so much for the kind introduction. All right, very happy to be with you today and host the panel. So without further ado, let's introduce our guests for today. So our first guest is Michael. I'm just going to invite him to stage. Michael is a seasoned realtor. He's been working in the Toronto space for a long time, knows the market very well. He's joining us from Royal LePage Infinity. He has experience in 19 years of experience in both real estate and in the mortgage industries. And he even left one of the big 5 banks to give back to the community. So very happy to have you with us today, Michael.
Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. All right, and let me introduce our second guest speaker, Frank Taher. We practiced this in the rehearsal. CEO and co-founder and principal at Six Design. Frank is both an architect and a structural engineer, so that's quite a unique combination. And one of his missions is actually to advance the level of architecture that we see in our cities today in Toronto, which is a great mission. I hope we see more of that. And Frank studied at U of T. So Frank Welcome. I'm going to invite you to the stage now as well. All right, and there he is.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you guys. Hopefully this could be useful.
Awesome. Okay. Well, without further ado, let us get started. So today, we are going to be discussing something which is on top of many people's minds. Is it time to add an extension or move out and move on? I've had the pleasure of speaking to a lot of homeowners in recent weeks in Toronto, and I keep hearing it almost every call that I have. People are trying to solve the same problem. They're looking for more space at home. They're not sure if they can make use of their existing space, or if they should, try and find a new place. Obviously, we all know that the Toronto real estate market in particular is very hot right now. Although there might be some signs that that's starting to cool off a little bit. I'm interested to hear what Michael has to say later on. We also have heard that material prices have been skyrocketing. So in some ways, people might feel like there's no way to win here. But I think you'll hear kind of two different perspectives from both of our speakers, and hopefully we can answer this question. So I'm just going to minimize this, and let's start with our first question. So I'm going to ask this to each of our panelists, starting with Michael. So Michael, tell us a little bit about what got you really interested in the Toronto real estate market.
I guess you could say it started when I was a lot younger, when I was a child, when I was a kid. I was born and raised in Toronto. And just growing up, I've always thought that I felt that Toronto was a ugly, architecturally, basically as a city, not very good looking city compared to a lot of the other cities that I've been to. And just being a child, I remember going to Montreal as a child to visit family, some family in Philadelphia and Miami as well. So I'd go there in the summer and I would come back to Toronto, and I'd always feel like, why couldn't we have buildings like that here? I remember just growing up and seeing like the Sky Dome, for example. The Sky Dome is just a big concrete block of ugliness compared to some of the nicer parks down in the US. So I've always thought that Toronto was really ugly. Cookie cutter homes throughout the city, just nothing very unique. So when I turned 18, I actually responded to an ad in the paper, and there was a job selling office products door to door. So the person that was supposed to train me, his sales area was in Old Toronto. It was in the Distillery District. So he took me there, and we went from business to business trying to sell these paper and pens and paper clips and whatnot. And I was only there for a day, but that one day had a long-lasting impact on me. So I remember going to all these different buildings, and from the outside, I'd see these buildings that weren't very attractive. But once I walked in, I was actually really shocked to see that, architecturally, it was just immaculate, exposed brick, open air elevators, stained glass windows, intricate designs in the ceilings and whatnot. So at that point, I fell in love with like architecture, real estate, just buildings, period. So I ended up majoring in urban studies at York University and economics, and became more interested in real estate. It did take me a long time to eventually get into real estate, but I was always interested in starting a career in real estate from that point on. From there, I ended up taking a long way through to get to real estate. I worked at one of the big 5 banks, learned as much as I could about the mortgage industry. I've done several different roles, mortgage-related roles, and then decided to work on my own, jump out on my own, and work in real estate. And now I'm a dually licensed real estate and mortgage agent. And my hopes are obviously to give back. I've learned a lot in the years that I've been working, and I enjoy what I'm doing now. And I know there's a lot of people that don't really understand what goes on behind the curtain. So I like to be that person to educate and assist people get into the real estate market.
Oh, fantastic. Great story. And thanks so much for sharing. Again, we're happy to have you with us. So Frank, same question to you. You know, you're in architecture and engineering. What got you interested in the Toronto market?
Yep. So basically, it's history as well. I was born and raised in a family of architects. Both of my parents used to be architects, and moving to Canada, when we first came to Toronto, what I felt was the same thing that Michael felt. It's the lack of architecture, the lack of design that we have in our Toronto communities. A lot of these cookie cutter houses that are being built by big developers who really don't care about design as much as they should, like other bigger cities, bigger metropolitan areas. So my goal from childhood was to bridge this gap between engineering and design and architects. There's always conflicts between these two disciplines, and my goal has been to address that problem. That's why I targeted both engineering and architecture, studied for them, got licensed in them, and now we are basically operating in Toronto. With regards to Toronto's market, what I can tell you, what mostly interests me is the fact that it's an ever-growing real estate market. There's an abundance of immigrants that are coming here. There's always need for housing, and there's always room for growth. So that's basically what pushes me and our firm to stay in this market.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so let's dive into some questions. So the first question I've got is for Michael. So Michael, the Toronto housing market has been on fire for the past year. In fact, I mean, it's really been on fire for the past 2 decades, but you know, we've seen it kind of explode recently. We've, you know, heard of you know, bidding wars, houses going hundreds of $1,000s over asking. A lot of people are worried about being priced out of the city. So to those who are either thinking of buying or selling a house in Toronto, what advice would you offer?
So there's a few things that you should consider before you make the decision to renovate or purchase. Did you want, sorry, can you ask the question again? Were you asking me whether or not somebody needs to renovate, or were you looking to have the answer to the question? Go on, sorry.
I mean, yeah, just curious to hear, like, what do you tell your clients, right, who are looking for a house in Toronto right now that are just really worried about the, obviously the rising prices?
Just get into the market. Just get into the market. You can't save up enough money to keep up with inflation. Don't try to save up and with the anticipation of purchasing next year, because you may be able to save an extra 30,000 or 40,000 this year, but the market is already appreciated by 50 or 60,000, so you're still falling behind. So get in the market as quickly as possible. I'll give you a couple of quick stories just to highlight that. A couple customers I'm working with right now, they're basically priced out of the GTA market. So we've had to actually leave the GTA, and I've been helping them look for homes just outside the GTA. And they purchased a home. It was a nice detached home, and it was $550,000, really, really cheap. And they had some problems with financing, so the deal fell through, unfortunately. 1 week later, that same home was relisted and sold for $575,000. So in a week's time, in 5 days, the home sold for an additional $25,000, right? So, and their max was $550,000. They couldn't even afford to go above $550,000. So right there, within a week, they were priced out of at least that specific home. And then going forward, that was the one comp. So other homes on that street saw that home sell for $550,000, so they thought they could get $560,000, then $575,000. So they asked for $585,000, then $600,000, so forth. So now the homes are going for over $750,000 in that specific pocket of Brantford that we were originally looking for. So they were quickly priced out of the detached market, and we eventually did find a place for them, but it was a townhome and ended up costing a little bit more than the original price that they were looking at for the detached home. So unfortunately, we missed it by a week. If we had financing in order, if everything worked out, they would have had a detached home at the 550 mark. Now they're in a townhome at a slightly higher price point. So yeah, I mean, just get into the market, get a condo, get a fixer-upper, get something that you can afford. There has to be something that you can afford. So this is not really the time or market to have a long laundry list of items that you need. You just have to get into the market, and eventually you'll be able to cash that equity out and buy your dream home down the road.
Awesome.
So that'd be my advice.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's appreciate the kind of openness there, right? I think that is the reality. You did mention buying a fixer-upper, right? So I'm going to toss it over to Frank now. Frank, I know that you've helped a number of homeowners in the GTA renovate old homes. Toronto has a lot of old homes, a lot of homes that are like pushing 100 years old. You've helped people also build extensions to their homes. Maybe tell us a little bit about one or two recent projects where you helped a homeowner achieve this.
So I would say we do this a lot, and the very first thing that I would like a homeowner to know at the very first stage of the project is to get educated on what they should expect during the process. A lot of the time they have mismatching information, incorrect information, and they start a project thinking it's going to be a certain dollar amount or a certain timeline, but that timeline or that cost is not realistic. So that's basically what I see the biggest problem that we have with these projects is with our projects, we have done top-ups, we have done extensions, we have added more functionality to the houses, we've added more basically income generation to some of the houses. A lot of the people in Toronto area are asking for basement apartments and secondary suites because they can't afford the whole house. They make a rental unit in it and they start renting it out. And also a lot of our clients are looking for better aesthetics, so that would be a better look on the outside, better materials on the inside, or sometimes changing the interior of the house completely. Basically, this is almost keeping the structure of the house on the outside and changing everything on the inside, as much as even changing ceiling heights or floor heights. So all of these are a possibility and have been done. It's a matter of knowing what to expect, correct budget, correct timeline, and understanding the risks associated with these type of projects.
Yeah, fantastic. So there are other options for homeowners out there too. There's actually quite a lot that you can do with your existing space. Love the idea about adding more income generation. I think that's going to become a lot more relevant for people who can't necessarily afford the monthly mortgage payment, or just don't want to have it be such a big chunk of their income. That's I think we're going to see a lot more of that. So Michael, one of the things you were saying is just get in the market, get in the market fast, right? So for somebody who's maybe thinking about this, what can they do to kind of get started? Just where do they get started with thinking about buying a house? And do you have any tips or tricks for them to help make that process a little easier?
Yeah, I mean, planning is very, very important. So you have to have the foresight. You can't wake up today and want to buy a house next week. Like, you really have to plan. So it does, unfortunately, start with money. You should speak to your bank, or better yet, speak to a mortgage broker and get your options together, because you need to understand what you need to qualify when you're purchasing a home, and a mortgage professional, whether it be the bank or a mortgage broker, they should be able to pre-approve you to give you an idea of what you could qualify for. So when you are in the market, there are three important factors that banks are looking at when they want to qualify you. So the credit, income, and down payment. Those are the three keys. So a pre-approval, probably should do it like well in advance, probably like 6 to 12 months before you even decide that you want to buy a home, just so that in case there's any problems with your credit, you have more than enough time to address those issues. So you may have a collections on your credit from company X that you forgot about. You need to clear that up. You might have a low credit score. You may need time to build that up. There may be errors that need to be corrected. All that takes time, and you don't want to be making an offer this Friday and then find out today that you have credit issues. So it's good to have a good number of weeks or months to resolve those issues. You can also pull your own credit report. If you go to Equifax or TransUnion's websites for free, you can actually pull your own reports, and you can provide that to a mortgage professional, and that person should be able to guide you to give you an idea of what your credit, if your credit is good or if it needs some work. Job consistency, I wouldn't, the pandemic, a lot of people are deciding to switch jobs. If you're looking to buy a home, I wouldn't really look at changing jobs just yet. Job consistency is very important. So it'd be very important to stay in your current role until at least you move into your home, and then go ahead and upgrade your home, upgrade your job, your career. And then down payment, you definitely need to save up. In Canada, we are allowed to put down as little as 5% down. 20% is preferable, but 5% would be the bare minimum in order to purchase a home in Canada. So those are three things that you really need to be concerned with. And as I said earlier, don't try to outpace the market. Don't try to save up a large down payment and wait. And don't wait until that time comes. Just try to get in as quickly as possible when you do have at least that 5% available to purchase a home. So just to give you some quick numbers, just to finish off, if you were to purchase, say, a $700,000 home, and the market increased by 3% per year, that means after 5 years, your home would be worth $800,000. So you've just made $100,000 in that 5-year period of time. And also you're making your mortgage payments. So you're going to pay down your mortgage naturally over that 5-year period. So basically at the end of the 5 years, you would have access to $250,000, $250,000 available that you could use to buy that forever home or that next home. So that's why I was saying that it's really important just to get into the market, buy that fixer-upper, buy that condo, just get into the market, and maybe in 3 years or 5 years, you'll be in a position to upgrade to a better home that you I guess more appreciate.
Great. Yeah, the importance of building equity early. I think that's very key. Okay, great. So Frank, also thinking about preparations, but preparations from a renovation. The process can be quite daunting. In fact, we at Billdr, we ran a survey last year, and it showed that in Ontario in particular, people are actually most confused about the whole building permit process. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if that's a reflection of Ontario versus other provinces, but when it comes to permits, zoning, committee of adjustments, engineering, it's a lot to consider. How do people get started in planning their project?
So what you just mentioned is partly because we have different zoning, different municipal requirements in every different location in Ontario. So I would recommend always the very first two things that any homeowner should do is contact a professional architect or engineer and get their opinion on what they want to do. And B, try to communicate either with a project manager or a contractor, a reputable contractor, not just any contractor, to see what they should expect based on their budget and their timeline. These are the very first steps. After this, it would be determining if based on that budget and their timeline, their scope of work is going to be limited to strictly changing the interior of the house, that this could be removing load-bearing walls, this could be creating new window openings, but this is within the existing building footprints. Or they do have room to do an addition or a top-up or extend their living spaces based on the requirements and based on the available budget. Once this is determined, after this, it's checking with the municipality if the zoning allows for it or not, and then jumping into the project. Otherwise, again, they're going to run into a lot of problems. We get a lot of homeowners that come to us that had the wrong advice from day one, either from the contractor or from unqualified designers who basically guided them in the wrong direction. And this will cost them more to be fixed further down the road rather than knowing it at the very beginning.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So definitely reach out to a professional. You know, I always recommend, or I always remind people too, it's a lot cheaper to make big design decisions before you've signed contracts.
Exactly.
Once you started construction, especially once you've started demolition, there's not a lot that you can do at that point. So make sure to invest in design up front. Okay, now one last question for each of you before we move to open Q&A. This one's a bit of a twist, so I kind of want each of you to argue the other side. So Michael, why shouldn't someone buy a house if they're looking for more space?
Why shouldn't? That's a horrible question. Buying a home, to be honest, is expensive. It's not cheap, obviously. So basically, if you're looking at the average purchase price in the GTA right now, it being $1 million, buying a home is going to cost you about $26,000. And if you're upgrading, you're selling your home, and let's just say the 1 million, let's say you're selling the home for $1 million, you have to pay the commissions, you have to pay legal fees, inspection fees, you're looking at another $57,000. So just upgrade your home, you're looking at potentially $83,000 in land transfer taxes, legal fees, commissions, and so forth. So buying a home could be expensive. So if you can afford to stay in your current home and upgrade your home, that might make a lot of sense depending on what needs you have.
Okay, love it, love it. And thanks for going with that question. And Frank, now to be fair, I'm going to ask you the same question. So Frank, why shouldn't... You stabbed me in the back, by the way. So Frank, why shouldn't someone renovate or extend their home?
I would say if they have wrong expectations with what resources they have available, that's point one. B, if they don't have the patience for it. And C, and this is a very common question that we get, if they want to live inside their house while they're renovating. So don't do that. Very simple. Don't do it from day one. Just move out or get a new house. That just increases your construction costs. That complicates everything about your project. So this would be my response to this.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, good stuff. So there are definitely some things to consider on both ends. Thanks both for sharing your opinion. Now, before we go, there's a surprise session. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot, Michael and Frank. You haven't received these questions in advance, but we're going to do a very quick lightning round. So I'm just going to ask a couple questions. They're fun questions. And then, you know, you can just tell us the first thing that comes to mind, kind of like one word or one sentence, okay? So here's our lightning round. First question, what is your favorite Toronto or GTA neighborhood? All right, and Frank, I'm gonna ask you first.
Hogs Hollow.
Hogs Hollow, a nice choice. All right, Michael.
Liberty Village.
Liberty Village, okay. Very cool. Awesome. Two very, very good neighborhoods. All right. Next question. What's the one thing that any house you live in needs? And I'll ask Michael first this time.
An ensuite bathroom. That I don't share with anybody else.
That makes a lot of sense. And Frank?
My answer is an office. this wasn't a need until very recently. It was good to have an office, but now it's a must.
I agree. I totally agree. Amazing. All right, next question. What is your favorite thing about Toronto? And Frank, I'll ask you first.
It's that it just is changing every day. Every time you go back to a neighborhood after a couple of months, you see changes. You see new development in those areas. And I really like the fact that the density in different neighborhoods is increasing. And this is causing a little bit of a change in the social interaction of the people as well, because there's more people living in the same neighborhood compared to a while back.
Okay, good answer. And Michael, same question. What's your favorite thing about Toronto?
Because the weather sucks so bad in winter, it's like every single day in the summer is like the last warm day of the year. So between May and October, it's like this is the last sunny day. We have to take advantage of it. Everyone in Toronto is just out and just enjoying the sun and just enjoying the weather. So that's what I like about Toronto, just that appreciation for the good weather because we have so much bad weather. So.
Yeah, I cannot wait for a pandemic-free summer. I'm really looking forward to that. All right, and we've got two more questions. So next question, if you could wave a magic wand, what's the first thing you would change about your current home? And Michael, I'll ask you first.
I'm actually doing some renovations right now, so I'm not sure if that counts, but my kitchen, we're working on our kitchen right now, changing the cupboards. So I would probably say continue with that project and just improve the kitchen. We made some sacrifices for cost. So if I had a magic wand, I would have all the bells and whistles in the kitchen since we spend so much time in the kitchen.
Yeah, totally agree. And Frank, what would you do?
So we literally just finished the renovation project on our house. But if we go back and we had more budget, we would add in more facade elements and change the exterior of the house.
Okay, nice. Yeah, not a lot of people do that. We see a lot of brick and now a lot of glass, but yeah, for sure. Okay, and last question in the lightning round. You know, lockdowns are hopefully ending soon. So Frank, once the lockdown ends, where will you have your first restaurant meal?
It's a very big question. This is a very tricky question. I have to think about it. Michael, you want to go first? I want to go to a lot of different products.
My answer is pretty simple. I'm a keg guy. I'm a steak and potatoes type of guy, so probably the keg. Okay,
all right, nice one.
And mine is going to be Safafras at Yorkville.
Oh, nice. Sassafras. It's a French restaurant, right?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, nice. Good stuff. All right. Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right. So we're now going to transition to our live Q&A session. And so what's going to happen now is you're all going to have an opportunity to ask our panelists today questions, both Michael and Frank. We've got about another 25 minutes for this session. In order to do that, on the right, there is a panel. You've got to go from chat over to questions. I see we've got one question from Joelle so far. So now's a good time to start typing in your questions. We're going to give you a few minutes to think. I just saw one more question come in. That's great. So you can start typing in your questions. You can also upvote questions from other guests joining us today. To give you a few minutes to think, I'm just going to hand it over to Sally. And Sally's just going to tell you a little bit more about Billdr and what we do.
So while we wait for the questions to come in, so I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Billdr. So at Billdr, what we do is we support homeowners throughout their renovation project, from scope definition to contract selection, and even to project completion. And we're really there with you throughout the entire process. We noticed that there was a lack of transparency in the construction industry, which is why Billdr's team of project managers are always there to kind of make your whole renovation project journey a lot easier. I'm sharing a link with you in the chat on the side. You can find out more about our services there. We provide like detailed estimates where it's developed by real project managers who are very well versed in the renovation industry. It also comes with a detailed scope and measurements, floor plans and 3D models, and 2-3 quotes from a Billdr verified contractor. We also have a project management services for bigger renovation projects so that you have someone, an expert by your side at all times. And right now, we actually are having a very interesting promotion for Toronto homeowners, where if you are one of our first 20 clients, you get a $500 gift card to IKEA, and the first 10 gets $2,400 gift card to our project management service. And to qualify for the promotion, you have to get a paid estimate done before June 15th. So if you are thinking about starting your renovation project soon, book a consultation with Rayful here. I'll also share the link for this.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that, Sally. And we do have a couple questions, and so let me start with our first question. This one is going to be for you, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Sagi, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Sagi from NYC. He asked that he mentioned that there's an opportunity for enriching the level of design in Toronto. Many people building or renovating homes don't necessarily consider the design as a priority, especially if they're trying to save money. What would you say is the best way to educate or inspire them about the importance of design? Great question.
It's very simple, and that is to show them how buildings that have been designed properly are being sold with a higher price tag in the same neighborhood. If their idea is an investment. On the other hand, if this is an end user house, you're doing a renovation on your house and you're going to be living in it, showing them the ideas that how functional even their limited space could become by spending the correct amount of time in the design phase, opens up their mentality about spending money and spending correct amount of time and money during the design phase. It's these two, because if they're investing, they're looking for more money to come back. On the other hand, if they're renovating, they're looking for more comfort, right? So there is an answer for both of them, both of the sides of the equation, I should say. That's how I see it. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of this happening because people are just in a rush when it comes to renovations. They want to start today, yesterday, not even today. And that's a very big problem. They need to spend proper amount of time when they want to start a renovation project.
Okay, great. So definitely, we're going to share your info, Frank, if anyone is considering a renovation and wants some inspiration. They should definitely reach out to you. Now, I do have a question for Michael. This is actually my question, but today's June 1st. Not only is it the day of this event, but it's the day that Canada has introduced new stress test measures for mortgages, which is something I'm sure you are following. For anyone who didn't get grandfathered in today, what should they expect with the new stress test?
Well, the stress test was intended to pretty much try and slow down the real estate market by instituting this stress test. So we're looking at a decrease in what the average consumer would qualify for. So on average, you're looking at 4.5% to 5% would be the reduction in what the average person would qualify for. So going forward, if you were pre-approved or had a conversation and you'd qualify for, let's say, a $500,000 purchase of a home, then I think as of today, that would go down to 480 or thereabouts, right? So I think when you're shopping for a home going forward, take into account that reduction in what you qualify for between 4 and 5%. That's what we're basically going to see going forward with this new stress test that the government has implemented, or increased stress test, actually. The stress test was always there.
Got it. Okay. So not the end of the world. I think your advice from before still holds, right? At the end of the day, the key is just getting in the market as fast as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it hurts to be honest, it does hurt the first-time home buyers. If you already have skin in the game, you really shouldn't be going to the max that way anyways. So so I don't think it's going to impact the people that already own homes. It's the young, people that are under 40, first-time home buyers. They'll definitely be hurt by this, but we'll see what happens with prices going forward.
Got it. Okay. All right, Frank, we've got another question for you from Joelle. And so Joelle asked, you mentioned that people have unrealistic expectations from the get-go. How do you avoid having those unrealistic expectations, and how do you plan your budget properly?
Get a qualified person to assist you from day one. That's one point. B, get your architect involved from day one. A lot of the time people get advices from contractors. Yes, that's a very good source, but contractors are not regulated in Ontario. So they can give you anything and they cannot be held liable for what they told you because there's no regulatory body supervising what they tell you, right? So from very, very first point, have an architect involved in your project and make sure they're qualified. Check their previous experiences, check their previous projects, what has been built, what the experience of previous clients with these people have been. And basically do your due diligence before jumping into a project. Don't just say, I want to renovate tomorrow and I have to start tomorrow. No, have a dedicated timeline allocated to finding the right people and interviewing the correct people. That's one point. Second point that I see that's very important, you have to be connected with your construction as well as design team. You have to make sure there is mutual understanding because communication is key in any construction project from the very get-go. If you can't communicate with your design team, if you can't communicate with your construction team, you're going to have a problem down the road.
Awesome. Great advice. And so we've got another question, and this is actually for both Frank and Michael. Our societies are changing today. So we're seeing things like smart homes, energy efficiency, and the pandemic has also been a catalyst for change as well. And so the question to both of you is, how do you see home building and just real estate of the future? So a pretty broad question. Michael, why don't we start with you? What do you kind of see in the future of real estate?
Well, I think the smart home piece definitely will be will be key as the demographic of home buyers shifts lower and lower. You naturally have people that are more tech savvy. It's hard to convince somebody that is older to, kind of mess around with technology, whereas somebody that's in their 30s that owns a home, they may be more willing to have everything online and have their home wired so that they can, close the drapes while they're at work or adjust the temperature online while they're at work on their way home, right? So we're definitely going to see more of a shift towards smart homes where all that technology is being implemented. And in turn, that will affect energy efficiency. in addition, with the pandemic, as you indicated, a lot of people are at home all day. And if you're at home, so right now I'm in my office. This office in the winter is kind of drafty. So if I'm here every day, all day, I'm not going to the office, I'm going to be more willing and more I'll push towards getting these windows replaced so that the draft issues that I have in this room are rectified. So we're definitely going to see more renovations going forward, regardless, with more people working from home. And yeah, that's what I would see going forward.
So in my opinion, the smart home features is actually something that has been in place for I would say 10 or 15 years, but energy efficiency is going to be a key player going forward. There's multiple factors impacting this. A, it's a global warming. B, it's the building code that's getting stricter every couple of years. Right now, Ontario Building Code is a little bit behind the Canadian National Building Code, and that code is a little bit behind the International Building Code. So by the time we catch up to the International Building Code, which hopefully is going to be faster, we're going to have significantly more restrictive energy efficiency measures. For instance, something that changed very recently in 2018, I believe, was the requirement for having HRVs. This is heat recovery ventilators. This wasn't a requirement for a residential house until 2018. This was an option, but now it's almost a necessity and a requirement from the building code. That's one point. Second point that I see happening is a little bit further than energy efficiency, and that is sustainability, which is the bigger picture. And energy efficiency is only one factor of sustainability. So we are getting inquiries about how to make new construction and new development specifically more sustainable. I see developers becoming more interested because I believe there is more marketing, there is more knowledge with the general public nowadays with regards to sustainability. People realize, yes, there might be some more capital costs, but A, it helps the environment. B, it's going to help them have less operational costs. And C, more important than all of these, it's going to make the space more comfortable for them. So slowly, people are going to rely towards more sustainable projects. We actually did have a project in Forest Hill that was going to be net zero. This project, there was an extra budget dedicated just to making this house off-grid house. So we were trying to build it in such a way that it doesn't need electricity from the grid within the city. Unfortunately, it got delayed, but we do have these inquiries that are coming forward slowly. I would say 10 years ago, this was very rare. But now we see it coming towards the city, towards the metropolitan areas.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's it's so great to see the building code definitely, evolve and seeing our buildings just become more sustainable and efficient. So definitely, and I think Sally actually just dropped some information in the channel recently. The federal government just launched a new program offering Canadians grants up to $5,000 to pay for energy saving home upgrades. I know there are many such grants and rebates available. So, sometimes there's an additional incentive to do some of this work, and maybe just something to think about tacking on to existing renovation work you're looking to do anyways. So good. All right, Michael, one question for you. It's actually from me. But for, for new, like first-time home buyers, you mentioned you were helping some clients of yours recently try and close on a place in Brantford. Where are these kind of nice pockets to look at for people who are on a budget and maybe concerned about entering the market? Are there some kind of cool pockets in or around the GTA that are good opportunities for first-time homebuyers right now?
Yeah, definitely. They are quickly drying up, but there's still some deals to be had on the outskirts of the GTA. So Barrie, there's still some deals that can be had in Barrie. Definitely the Tri-Cities area, the Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo pocket is definitely booming. Brantford, as I said earlier, Brantford is also a very good spot. It's an hour and a half outside of Toronto, so it depends on your ability to drive. If you're working from home, then it doesn't really matter, but Brantford's a great pocket as well. A lot of people are definitely going to the Niagara region as well. I'd say those are probably the major pockets that people are gravitating towards right now because of slightly lower prices than the GTA.
Yeah, and I also recently saw a study from McKinsey and Company. It showed the change of the way people work. I think as a whole, we're going from a society that was 99% working in an office to now only about 40% working in an office 100% of the time. So you know, it's starting to be, I guess, a bit more convenient for people. And Niagara's wine country, one more great reason to look outside the GTA. All right, and I'll ask a final question to each of you just before we close here. But you know, let's just end on kind of a positive note. You know, Frank, what is your hope for the city of Toronto? What do you hope to see for the future of Toronto?
I hope to see better architecture. That's my hope. It's this city does lack on the architecture and design element significantly, and I hope we see more improvements as we go forward. I can already see that to a certain amount, but it's not enough. We need more involved people, more people that care and understand the value of design. That's basically what I hope to see.
Awesome, well said. Michael, what's your hope for Toronto?
Some way, somehow, whether it be the federal government or the provincial government, I would hope that some of the restrictions regarding land use gets untied a little bit, because the supply, there's a very, poor supply, a big supply issue, excuse me. There are a lot of empty, vacant land, throughout the GTA, outside GTA, that are remaining undeveloped, and it would be really good if some of that land gets developed and house people, because as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of immigrants coming to the country. We have something like 250,000 people that are coming to the GTA every year, and we can't hope to have any kind of reprieve from these high home prices if we keep having that level of immigration into the area, and we're not building enough homes to house these people. So I really think we need to build more, and if we build more, then hopefully it keeps up with being able to supply reduced prices to the rest of us. So that's my hope: increase supply.
Absolutely, yeah. And definitely a good problem to have. I mean, it's great that so many people do want to come to Toronto. It's I think what makes this such a great city. We just need to make sure they have a place to live, an affordable place to live. Well, that brings us to the end of our panel. So in closing, I just want to say a huge thank you to our guests today. Thank you, Michael and Frank. It was a really interesting discussion. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure our participants also enjoyed each of your unique perspectives in trying to answer this question. And for those of you who are watching from Toronto and New York and elsewhere, thank you for joining and participating and asking such great questions. Any one of us, Michael, Frank, or myself, would be more than happy to talk to you if you do have more questions about real estate, about renovating your home, about architecture and design. We're all here to help you on your journey. And we will be sending this slide deck out as a recap by email. So you will have, we'll also include Michael and Frank's contact details as well, so you can reach out to them. And with that, thank you everyone for joining us today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day, everyone.
Take care.